Hello all, Rosalie here from rosaliesjourney.com, your cosmic midwife, and today I'm doing a video on a little bit about when I opened up to communicating with the insect realm. And the insect realm, I'm also including the arachnids, and I want to say there's another type of species. I'm just not thinking of the name at this very moment, but if you've been following me for some time, I am an animal communicator. I communicate with many different beings in many different dimensions. I'm able to perceive and hear and feel in different ways. I can hear their frequency, and then I can zone in and tap in and understand. Not all the time, I'm still honing this ability, but it's very clear to me that they're communicating because they listen to me, especially if I'm trying to get flies out of the house. I don't kill insects anymore, and not intentionally anyway. I respect them as a species here on this planet Earth because I believe with my heart that all beings that are on this planet serve a purpose. And I did a video previously about flies and their purpose, or just shedding another perspective on understanding their species in another way, so you could think twice about harming them. So what I do with flies, for instance, when they're in the house, I visually telepathy send them a signal like, hey, go to this window, go to this door. And sometimes it takes a little bit, but they come and they'll go wait by the window, or they'll go wait by the door until I come and I say thank you, and then I open the door and I just kind of guide them out. Or I'll hold the door open. I'm like, come on, follow the frequency of my voice, come on out. Now, granted, just like all of us, we all got attitudes. Sometimes we're feeling different ways in different days, and some things take a little bit more. But for the most part, that works with me because I have developed that sense of communication, and I send that signal out to them now that I've learned how to perceive it. And it's coming to me like, if I can teach this, I feel like someone watching this may ask this question, and I teach how to communicate with the insects? And I'll come back to that because I'm not quite sure, because this was something I kind of taught myself how to do, or remember how to do. And perhaps if you're watching this video, you may, okay, that's the answer. You may already remember how to do this, so just start practicing. But here's the other part I wanted to come up, because this is the reason of the video, how I started to communicate with them. So I've realized over a period of time on my journey that insects were always communicating with me. I have an open heart where I'm just open and receptive, that youthfulness in me that's just curious about all types of things, and even the disgusting things. I see the beauty in all creatures, or I do my best to do that. I'm still human at this time, and I have different feelings and emotions from time to time. But in general, I'm open and receptive to understanding, or understanding and overstanding different beings and how they operate, and seeing the beauty in them and the purpose that they serve. That's how I choose to live life, and how I greet, or how I am even with human beings. But especially with nature, I'm just inquisitive. I'm like, what does this mean? What does it smell like? I don't do that necessarily with insects, but I'm curious about them. And okay, so I'll just go to it. So the pertinent part that really blossomed, it was 4:44 when I did that. When I blossomed into really honing, or recognizing this ability that I have, was when there's a few times, I'm being shown a few different instances over my journey. The first one was a fly. No, the first one was a cockroach years when I was a kid. First was a cockroach, then it was ants. The ant situation was me eating an ant from, well, there was me eating an ant one time, and I was like, oh, these are different tasting. Another time was when I was in Virginia at my grandparents' house, and they said that these mounds in the dirt, well, you couldn't see that, these mounds in the dirt, don't step on that. Those are fire ant colonies. What does my little butt do? I step on it. And at the time, I remember I had ventured, because there were, my family lived on acres and acres of land in Virginia. And I went out into this forest part where there was like this tree stump, which was like a meditation spot. It was just so magical to me. I had to, my curious self had to go. And here I go stepping on the fire ant colony. I was trying to be so careful. And under this tree stump, there was like a thing to lift up on it that my papa put there. And the fire ant colony was there. So they were all over me. That was one first instance where I was attacked by fire ants. That was, I remember, I'm not a big screamer, but I screamed because I needed someone to come save me. I remember my dad came to save me, and he was just like wiping them all. They were all over me. So that was my first encounter like that. Oh, now I'm getting all these memories. Okay, my higher self. Thank you for all of these. I have been led throughout my life, apparently. I have always had this connection. I suppose it's a lot of my earth energy. I have Jupiter and Saturn in Virgo. So there's the lessons learned, and there's the expansion in Virgo. And it's in my 12th house. 12th, not 12th. Whatever. You got what I was trying to say. So, yeah, there was that instance. There was another time in Virginia where I had, I was just always curious about caterpillars, and I was a different type of child. I was different. Even though I grew up in the city, when I would go visit my family in Virginia who lived in acres and acres of country land, you know, that's a whole nother environment that when we would go visit in the summer vacations, I just wanted to see nature, and I did. I was observing it all, and I remember there were these big moths, and I was like, I didn't know moths could get this big. And they scared me a lot of the times. What else? Caterpillars. I was watching caterpillars all the time. I was friends with caterpillars. Okay, so that was my childhood, and then come to adulthood, or, well, there were roaches, cockroaches, and earthworms, spiders. So yeah, I've kind of been throughout my whole journey. But I'll just jump ahead to when I was just fully aware of communication with insects. So one story I've been wanting to share for some time, but for whatever reason didn't, but now is the most appropriate time to bring it up, is there was a time a couple years ago, this was after one of my big awakenings in 2018, that really changed me. It was 2019. I remember I was smoking a blunt with my ex, and I opened the door to get some air, and we're in the garage, and then I opened the door and it was raining, so I wanted to just air out the garage, and there was this black and white moth that was right at the threshold to the door, and you couldn't miss it. It was right there, and then it started crawling towards me. And so I picked it up, and I realized it was hurt. It had this like messed up part on it, and it was missing some wings. And at the time I didn't know it was a leopard moth, but that's what it was. It was black and white. And if you're into symbology, black has to do, from my opinion, and what I've learned thus far, black has to do not only with darkness, but also that's creation energy. That's the feminine energy. That's where things are birthed. Things are birthed from darkness. What comes from the dark can go to the light. So then you have the white side, which has to do with purity, your divinity. White has to, okay, so I'll just say that, purity. And so it was very symbolic. It was a symbolic moment for me to see not only this hurt moth, because that also opened up, not only, I was already having communication, because before that, I'm jumping around because I forgot this part. I already was communicating, so in different seasons, from the summer going into fall, then going into winter, because our house is yellow and the sun comes up on the east side of our house usually has a whole bunch of different lady beetles that come to do their matings, and some of them come into the house. There's also the stink bugs, which stink bugs is actually one of my totems. It's not a common one, and that's the thing. Just so if you're watching this, you can have a totem of many, many different types of species of creation. It's not just your typical tiger, hawk, although those are, I got hawk too. But just understand or know that there are many species that you can have as a totem, as a guide. Everything serves a purpose, and this is part of my purpose, is to shed light on some of the not so beautiful, but that's all perspective, really. Not your typical animals, insects, creations, and seeing the beauty and understanding the lessons and symbolism and things we can learn from them. So stink bug. Stink bugs were in the house too. So during those times where these species were in the house, I started bonding with them. I was like, these are cute. And I looked up information about them, because they weren't ladybugs. They were lady beetles. They're different. Even though they're come from the same family, they're a bit different. There's some different features and characteristics and mannerisms that are different between a ladybug and a lady beetle. To me, they still both symbolize good luck and good fortune. But they're just a little bit different. So lady beetles and stink bugs were in the house, and I've observed them. I had them on my plant because they stayed through the winter. So you have no choice. Well, I had no choice, because it was my choice to get to know them a bit better. And then that's where I started to hear their frequency when they would call me. They would call me. I would hear this high-pitched frequency, especially from the stink bug, when they're around. And then they would just lay on my shoulder, or they would be on my hand, and I would just communicate with them. And I can hear them back. I would hear the frequency or the high-pitched tones back, and then I would see what they would do, and I would lay them on certain plants. I was like, you can sit here, and they would stay on the plant. Now, granted, I learned that because I had the stink bugs congregate, and they made one of my plants their home through the winter. Didn't think the foresight of this part, that they could lay bugs, extra babies. And so I had a beautiful hibiscus plant that then was filled with baby stink bugs. And so I had to bring it outside. That was a whole nother. I learned the lesson, though. But since then, I have had a bond, and it's always been a joy when the stink bugs come to visit. And now when they come, some of their symbolism, stink bug, is they're very joyful creatures. They're very peaceful, calm creatures. They don't harm humans. They like to, they have this orifice that comes out from underneath them that looks like it's gonna a needle, but what it does is it gets into the particles of the chlorophyll within the plant or leaves, or they do different things, and they just suck it out. They do many things, but they're very kind, timid creatures. They mean no harm. They fly. They also have a hard shell back, but this was about the moth. So I'll do a whole nother thing on stink bug. So anyways, I got to know stink bugs. They were my friends. They were my pals when I was going through a lonely phase in my awakening journey, because when you're going through an awakening, you go through many levels of feelings and experiences. So from already learning, being aware of my communication, so there's this leopard moth that I'm now holding, as you can see in these pictures I'm putting in here. And uh, there was even a time I tried to move it to one of the precious trees that I've bonded with, and it kept crawling back to me. So I was like, okay, I got the message. I started to hear its frequency. I'm like, okay, so we got to take care of you. And so I made this little home for it. I put some crystals in it because it was hurt and it was damaged, and it wanted to be with me. I also at this time was coming to realize some of my cosmic midwife abilities, which is coming in its own time more and more to the fore, where I'm like a death doula or a death midwife, where I assist creatures when they are about to transition, and through the transition period, and I do a whole intuitive ceremony of giving thanks and honoring this creature, because everything deserves to be honored, as are you. No matter what, everyone deserves to be honored and respected. So I did this. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I started to realize those parts started to come out. Also, I have a Cancer North Node, so there's this nurturing part of me that just comes out where I'm like, I have to help it. Which I realized I had to help myself before I can really help others, and I've been learning that still. Finding the balance with that. So, day one, I took in this leopard moth, created a home with it, got it some flowers and things for it to do what it needed to do. I just did what I felt to do at that time. I put some water in one little, I got a lid from something. I put some water in one side, and then I put some sugar water on the other side, with some rocks for it to sit on. And I just made it a peaceful abode for the time being. And I checked on it every day. On the third, and during this time, I was communicating, I was sending it healing energy, and I was learning from it. I was observing it. I could sense it. I could even sometimes see its aura, but it was hurt. It was damaged. It had an open wound, so I at least kept it dry, because I remember that day too when I found it, it was raining, so that was also symbolic of emotions, because my emotions were overtaken. Not overtaken. Let me rephrase that. I'm omitting that word. I was emotionally invested at that moment because of where I was. It was symbolic also of where I was and some hurt that I was healing through myself. And I share this story because sometimes you may realize on your journey, when you have experiences with different creatures, they're also mirroring where you are in your journey. With it being black and white is also showing the polarities within oneself. So I was observing, I was communicating, I was loving on, but also realizing at that time what I was personally processing. I can see clearly why this leopard moth came into my life at that time. I was healing some really deep wounds that were coming back up again, that were suppressed. So this moth stayed with me for 3 days. I was with it for 3 days. And those 3 days, on the third day, I remember it was in the morning and something said, get up. I think it woke me up, because I just woke up and I went to go see it in my craft room at the time. And I can tell it was on its way, transitioning. I felt it here. And I was with it. And I cried, I let it out, but then I also realized in the dish that I just had water in, it laid eggs. It laid its babies before it transitioned. And I just remember feeling, I just cried. I was just feeling so many different emotions, but I was grateful as well, because it had taught me such tenderness. It taught me how to love myself as well. And it was a pivotal moment in my life that not only opened up clearly my lines of communication to other types of species, but to have also a clearer line of communication within myself. So, like I said, I'm clairaudient, but at the same time, I feel like because it's not only hearing on the inside, there's also like something shifted within my ear canals as well, where I'm able to perceive, or I activated, because I started practicing different things to hear frequencies. I'll move my hands different ways over my ears and move around. So perhaps that's a way you can practice to hearing, picking up specifically, instead of hearing everything, tuning in specifically to different things. And practice that with the animals and the insects that are around you as well, because you will be able to, well, I guess if you keep practicing, you'll build this skill, or remember this skill. I'll be right back at the door. So where did I leave off? So I started to have more awareness from practicing with this leopard moth for 3 days, and realizing it had laid its eggs, its babies. It was a female moth, so it was the feminine energy, and feeling all of the emotions from that. It might have been, I'll have to look back to see what moon phase it is, because now I'm curious, what moon phase were we in? Because I'm very in tune with the phases of the moon. But when that happened, I performed a whole ceremony to let not only the eggs go, but also to let this leopard moth go back to nature. And I thanked it for its lessons and being here and coming into my life the way it did, because it really moved me, and I never forgot that. It was very helped me come closer to my mission of understanding and communicating with nature and all around us. And really, that's what we're all coming back to remembering, is that working with nature, we're supposed to be here working with nature. We're supposed to be in communication with nature, that we're all connected. We're all from the same source. Even though we're so different, we're different on purpose. We're all supposed to be here different on purpose. That's what makes Earth so beautiful and different, because we're all different. We all have different, we're a different spark of source. So having that experience really opened me up and blossomed me in another trajectory that I did not consciously know that I was going to be doing. But it has now become a wonderful asset in being wherever, because I'm understanding, understanding the signs and synchronicities and the guides, seeing how that everything plays a role in guiding me to what I'm here to do. So I share this story. And if you have any questions, please comment below, or would like to add some of your own experiences, or would like to know more about something, I'd be glad to expand upon it in another video. We all work together. We all help each other out. So even though I was able to help, I was just reminded, there was a time when I was coming into my awareness of being like a death doula or death midwife, assisting animals and insects on their transition. When I put that out to the universe, I started also having not only that leopard moth that came to the literal doorstep, but other animals started coming into my life that were either on their way or had just transitioned, or I would drive close to home, and there was a whole nother story. I'll just say this part. I started to realize that I was being used to really encompass that part of me, as honoring and doing the ceremonies to honor all living creatures and giving them bringing them back to Earth, to let decomposition process happen, but then also honoring them and making sure that they're transitioning successfully back to spirit. But just making it a beautiful ceremony, honoring different beings and honoring the phases of life. Honor your phases of life too. Thanks for listening. What else? Is there anything else I wanted to say about that? Through that experience, I do want to say this part. Through that experience with the leopard moth and seeing it in its most vulnerable state, and still seeing its pure beauty, seeing its boldness, seeing its courageousness, its divinity, and an insect that a lot of times, I mean, this is how it used to be. You were, oh, well, maybe not, because I was a different child. But there were many things that we just tend to overlook in general. We tend to look at insects as pests, and yes, they can eat up a lot of things. They can, but can't humans? Humans do the same thing. Humans do the exact same thing. They destroy stuff that don't need to be destroyed. Like I said, we all got the different sides to us. So, but coming back to what is the true essence of oneself, the true purpose of oneself. We all have different facets of us, light and dark. Big, if you want, I look at it as a circle, just like the zodiac wheel. We got all the zodiacs in us, even though we got planets in this house and this house and this sign. All of those still, it's still the circle. All those parts are still a part of us in different facets of our life. The same goes with every other living creature. They got birth charts too, technically. So they have all the different sides to that. So I bring this up to just not overlook them in that way. You can see how as we're growing and trying to create a new world, we're not trying, we're doing it. We're creating a new way of being, but it's really just coming back into that oneness of who we really are and respecting and honoring other beings for being who they need to be. And that's the biggest part. That was the biggest part of helping me come more into conscious awareness of that. The last part I want to say that it's not just about the death doula aspect, even though that is also a service of what I provide for your transitioning animals or honoring trees or whatever part of nature that you have been connected to that is transitioning. I do offer those shamanic services, or I don't know what to call it at this time, so I'll come back to that, but that is an offering that I provide. The other thing is by learning from having that experience with the leopard moth, of course, led to many other experiences with other types of insects because I was now consciously aware. So when you bring that into your awareness, what you think about becomes. Other insects started coming to me. I started to have wonderful experiences with the bees in a new way. They would just land on me. This also, because of this opening up my heart and opening up more petals of my lotus flower in my heart chakra, this also opened up for, like I said, these other beings to come to me to communicate with and to build on my communication with the insect realm and arachnids. Spirit, guide me to another word to call this, because I know spiders and ticks, they're not insects, they're arachnids because they have 8 legs. So, and if you watching have an idea of what to call this species, they're not insectoids, because that's still an insect. Anyways, it will come to me, I'm sure. I'm sure of it, and I'll put it in the comments when it does. But it's just that umbrella of those types of species of creatures. The other thing with that, from gaining the experience and seeing the beauty in insects, even the ones that kind of look scary, it took me a while. Like I said, these insects and these encounters opened me up to see the beauty in them. I did not initially see the beauty in all insects. Some I did, some I didn't. I didn't. I didn't. But as I've had these encounters and experiences, it opened me up to see the beauty and to find and to have the respect and to honor these other creatures that are also living and experiencing Earth in their form. For all we know, I could have been an insect or that moth in another life. We all experience different things on Earth. I know I've been here on this planet a lot of times. So the last part to close this up is from seeing and observing and finding the beauty in these species of creatures. It led me to also remembering, because I mean, on my awakening journey, I have gone through many things. It's like a wave. I learn about new things. Connecting with the ET realm, extraterrestrials. They come in many forms and species, and they look like many, many different things. Otherworldly, but I'm grateful for my astrological placements in this lifetime. So, from finding the beauty in these creatures led me to also find the beauty in understanding and connecting and seeing the beauty in connectedness of all beings in even other dimensions, because they look different. Where do you think, when you think about it, depending on how far you want to go with this, yes, we're part of Source, God, whatever you want to call that source power. There's also the theory, which is always subject to change. The truth we will find out when we need to find out. The theory of these extraterrestrial beings that created humans. You see them depicted in the hieroglyphs in Egypt. And I'm laughing at something I'm seeing outside. I'm seeing someone flying a kite, and it's just cute. The extraterrestrials, when I started opening up to that and connecting with even my galactic family, I was led through these experiences with different creatures and species to see the beauty in them here on Earth, so that my heart is open and ready to perceive and interact with them. I interact with them in spirit through telepathy, through my consciousness in my dream state, as an astral traveler, as a dream walker. But to be ready for the in-person, which I feel in the near future, I've been given dreams about this in the near future. As you know, the government's already disclosing that extraterrestrials, UFOs are all real. I knew this. I've known this since a child because I've had dreams of being on I've had many experiences, which we could talk about in another video. They were preparing me for being the Earth ambassador in this capacity, and to also assist whoever watches my content and being ready to perceive all the different types of species of extraterrestrials that are out there, and connecting with them and seeing the beauty in them, because they don't look like us. Some do, some don't. And to really love to love unconditionally is to love unconditionally. Unconditionally. That's accepting all. Now, it's not letting yourself be swept away by people. You still have to use your discernment and so forth. So even though I have an open heart, I know when someone's trying to mess with me, and I cut that shit off. I was trying not to swear, but this is me. So I'll sum up this video. So that was my experience. That was just one of many. And I hope this piqued something in you, stirred something up in you, or planted a seed to prepare you for what's to come. Connect with nature, man. Connect, or woman, human. Connect with nature. Work day by day to, when you have encounters with certain things, observe. The easiest thing you can do to start is just observing, taking a moment to observe. If something flies up to you, let's say it's not on you, but it's near you, take a moment and observe it. Another creature living on this planet just like you, living life just like you, having hardships sometimes just like you, having blissful moments, having abundance just like you. I keep seeing the fly landing on poop. To that, it's probably abundance. Like, I got a feast. It's all perspective. And we all are living simultaneously in different ways to experience different things on purpose. And what excites me may not excite you, and vice versa. And that's okay. There ain't nothing wrong with that. That's the beauty of being a human on this planet Earth that is full of abundance and unlimited possibilities for each and every one of us. So I'm done with this TED Talk. Thank you for coming. It's Rosalie talk. It was long-winded and all over the place, but that's how I am sometimes. And I didn't have notes on purpose, but I did have a note. I had this note I wrote to myself on different topics. Speak on how you started to open up to the insect and elemental realms and learn to see the beauty in insects of all kinds, which led to unique experiences. And that's what I did. So I checked this one off. That's my son's drawing right there. So thank you for listening. I appreciate you, and keep being you, exploring, expanding, and sharing your brilliance with all of us. Keep shining. You are loved, you are lovable, and you are love. Talk to you later.